All righty. So on my clock, I've got 6:01. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So again, good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Paget. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Enrollment and Student Success. I'm going to turn it over to Nick to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Flum, and I am one of the team lead academic advisors for the first year Student Success Hub at Northern Kentucky University.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nick. And again, I want to welcome everybody to our second part series, I guess, if you will, in our webinar, what we call Stronger Together, which is working very closely with our families and our parents to help support your student both inside and outside the classroom. So today we're going to be talking about kind of the advising aspect, as well as what you need to know now as we are finishing up the 9th week of the semester, which is crazy. It's amazing. In the blink of an eye, we're already heading into week 10. And so we'll talk about what you need to know as you're heading into summer and some information that'll help you to support your students should questions come up at home, or if they need additional support, or maybe even for you to prompt some questions to them to see how they're doing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get into our PowerPoint presentation. Just a couple housekeeping items here. We are going to go until about 6:45 tonight. So we'll promptly end there. And so if you have questions throughout the presentation, please do not hesitate to go ahead and use the Q&A on your webinar screen. If you just hover over the bottom, you will see a Q&A icon. All you got to do is click on that. You'll be able to type in a question, and we'll be able to respond either through, as they're coming into the presentation, we'll be able to respond in person here, or behind the scenes, we'll also be able to respond as we are typing some stuff in. So please don't feel like you have to save the questions till the end, because we will have a question and answer time and some discussion with everybody. But again, feel free to just jump right in and ask a question as something comes up. We don't want you to forget it, because our goal is that you do not leave with any questions unanswered. And so we'll go ahead and get started. So again, we'll go through our agenda here. We're really going to be focusing in on the fall and summer registration, as well as important dates that you need to know specifically as we head into summer. Now, many of you are parents and family members of first-year students, so this will be your first summer as your student wraps up their first year. So maybe we'll go over a few things you might want to know and kind of what's going through your student's head as they are entering summer and preparing for their fall semester. We'll talk about what steps, what can you do now? So again, we want to make sure we arm you with as much information as possible so that if your student is asking questions, or just even the topic comes up during the dinner table, you're able to kind of speak to it. And also kind of maybe, like I said, prod a little bit and ask some questions yourselves to see how your student is feeling. And then again, we'll leave some time at the end before 6:45 for a discussion and a Q&A from you. So with that, again, we always start these webinars with a few of these slides, really highlighting the importance that the family and parents have, especially as we're wrapping up our first year. I won't spend too much time on these slides because many of you have seen them before. But again, we had asked students prior to their arrival at NKU, so this was before they had even started classes, who would you primarily expect to influence you more academically? As you can see, it was kind of a tie there between their faculty and instructors, as well as their parents and family members. We asked that exact same question at the end of the first year, and as you can see, they relied very heavily on parents and family members, which is why we want to make sure we're engaging you in these conversations, because we know your students are still turning to you for support. Again, another question, if you had an academic related question, issue, or concern, who would you seek counsel from? Again, in high school, it would tend to be those faculty and instructors, and that's what the students would anticipate in college. But not a surprise, I'm sure, as you know where this is heading. When we asked them at the end of the first year, they were still, again, even from an academic issue or concern, they were primarily turning to parents and family members. So again, we wanted to make sure we engage with you in these conversations so that we can prepare not only your student for success, but also help you as part of that journey. Because again, I think there's a myth that once students get into college, they don't really talk about college or how things are going academically with their parents or their family members. And we have quickly debunked that over the last few years. So why don't we go ahead and jump into what you need to know now. And so I want to go over a few important dates that I think are important for you to have. I know students, when we talk about, hey, put this into your calendar, they grab their iPhone and start putting some things in there. I joke that as a parent of a college student myself, I still use a calendar actually right behind my computer in my peripheral vision. I can see the calendar right there. I still write everything down in terms of important dates. So I always joke it's nice to have these dates on your refrigerator so that every time everybody opens a refrigerator door, they see these important dates. So March 22nd, which is next week, all midterm grades will be posted into Canvas. I would say working with a few students today, the majority of midterm grades are already posted in their Canvas or on their MyNKU. So anywhere where they can retrieve their grades, they can go in and start looking at those. And that's important because again, it's a nice snapshot to see where that student is at midway through the semester. So if that grade is not what they were expecting, now is the time to reach out to tutoring, reach out to a faculty member, maybe reach out to another peer in the class and start some study sessions because there's still time to turn that around. March 28th, which again is coming up very soon here, is the last day to drop a course with a grade of a W, which stands for withdrawal. So if your student is really struggling in a class, and let's say they just don't think they're going to be able to turn it around because some of the fundamental information that came early in the semester is just not clicking for whatever reason, we would strongly encourage them to reach out to their advisor and talk about having a conversation around changing that grade and dropping the course so that they get a grade of a W instead of an F or a D, because that F or a D will significantly have an impact on their GPA. So again, just something to consider. March 31st, 2 weeks from yesterday, 2 weeks from today, I should say, priority registration begins for summer courses and fall courses. This is critical because this is when your students will start registering if they were thinking about summer courses, but more importantly for their fall courses. There will be a rush to get into register for these courses because again, once they're filled, they're filled. And so now that your student is looking at 200 level classes and maybe more specialized in their major, they're going to want some very specific classes. And so we want to make sure they get in with their advisor, have that advising appointment, set that schedule up in their registration cart. So when it comes time and their date and time comes up to register, they're ready to go and they can go in and just basically click submit and their registration cart becomes their schedule for the fall or the summer. May 6th is the last day of spring semester. I know that sounds far away, but that is just about 6 weeks away. And so obviously they're going to be having their final exams the week before. So again, it's just super important that you are aware that we are coming down to the end of their first year, or if you, again, for your sophomores or juniors that are here attending, the end of that year. So the spring's rapidly approaching. It's just nice to have that in the back of your mind. And then again, from the final grades perspective, the final grades will be posted in their MyNKU and Canvas as well about 10 days later. So just something to keep an eye on because you want to see how they did as those conversations continue into the summer. And so with that, I'm going to ask Nick to go ahead and unmute himself. I'm going to turn it over to Nick, who's going to talk about the advising appointment and this critical advising appointment. I know we talked a little bit about this in our webinar in the fall about what to expect in their first advising appointment if you are a first-year parent or family member. But this one is the next critical one, if not the critical one, because it prepares them for the conversation of basically preparing them for the fall and kind of some things they need to think about as they're heading into the end of the semester and into the summer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So if anyone just joined, my name is Nick Flum, and I am one of the team lead advisors for our newly developed first-year Student Success Hub at Northern Kentucky University. So as Ryan mentioned, we are talking about what to expect from an advising appointment leading into the fall semester during spring. So students were invited by their advisor through a Navigate campaign. So it was sent to all students with an advisor in their caseload as early as February 2022. So every student as of now should have received a campaign email or an email from their academic advisor about scheduling an appointment to really talk about summer and fall 2022 courses for their academic plans. So these include virtual appointments as well. So as we know, students have different perspectives and they may feel more comfortable doing virtual appointments, in-person appointments. So we really want to be flexible with students depending on what they prefer with their advising meetings and everything. And we know virtual now is a lot more convenient too. So we have those over Zoom. So advisors during the advising appointment will really make sure that we're focusing on academic plans and then program requirements as well, just to make sure that students stay on a 4-year course plan if that's their goal. And we really just like to talk to them about, like how the semester is going, if they, need any resources such as tutoring. We have a really great resource with the University Connect and Persist that can help students who are struggling with like any financial aid questions, scholarship questions, anything of those sorts. And then we will also review student progression and making sure that you're on those key milestones, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So it's really important that, during the advising appointment, we really want to make sure the student feels, comforted and belonging at NKU, but also that they're making and meeting their goals throughout their time at NKU as well. And it really is important, and it's bolded down there, but it is important for students to schedule an appointment if they haven't done so already, just to do it as early as possible. As Ryan mentioned in the previous slide, priority registration starts on March 31st, so it's just right around the corner, and we want to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident in their academic plan that they create with their academic advisor. And this really just gives them an opportunity, if they meet with their advisor early on, to get all that information, but also if they have any follow-up questions or they want reassurance to make sure that their path is the correct one, we can easily address those and make sure that they're on the correct path for their 4-year graduation plan or whatever their graduation plan is. Just make sure that they feel comfortable and confident in their decisions and their goals as well. So what you can do now for the milestones, we really just want to start the conversation and ask these key questions during an advising appointment. So if students really do have a 4-year graduation plan, or they want to stay up to date on their graduation plan, we really want to make sure that they're earning the exact amount of credit hours just to stay on that key milestone and that key path for them to take. So typically, when students are meeting with us and going into their sophomore year and junior year, senior year, we really want to make sure that they're hitting that 30, 60, or 90 credit hour mark, depending on what year they are in school. And this is just a really easy way to make sure that they're hitting on their path or on the right path for their major and their career goals. But also we want to make sure, if we catch something, we want to offer summer classes, different resources that they can get right back on track. Have you met the requirements for your scholarships and aid? So advisors, we do a lot as well, other than just advising. So we make sure, to check and ask if students have any specific financial aid or scholarship requirements that they're coming in with, because we know that different types of financial aid and different types of scholarships have different requirements that need to be met per semester and academic year. So we want to make sure, that's a really good question. If students want to withdraw from a course in their spring semester, as Ryan mentioned, that date is coming up on March 28th, which is just 2 Mondays from now. And we want to make sure, your scholarship and your financial aid look great. And then we can really refer them to the different resources, such as like our Office of Financial Assistance, to make sure that they're meeting those, so that we are not, interfering with any financial aid or scholarships, to make sure that they're staying on track with them, that there's no chance of them like having to lose them or submitting an appeal or anything. So we really want to make sure that the students feel comfortable and confident with that as well, because we know that college can be expensive for a lot of students, and we want to make sure that they're meeting those scholarship and financial aid requirements during that. And then, have you registered for summer and fall classes, or do you have an appointment with your advisor? So a lot of students right now have not registered for their classes, since super priority registration opens up on March 31st. But it's really important for students to meet with their advisor before that date, so that they can get the best possible pick for their classes as well. So all students have an advising hold on their account. When they meet with their advisor, they remove that hold after they talk about their 4-year plan, their academic plan, their progression, to make sure that the students feel comfortable with their decisions and classes. And advisors really are just there to make sure that it is a seamless and smooth transition from semester to semester, because we know that, some semesters may be more stressful than others. So we want to make sure that students have a clear, concrete plan when it's time to go in and actually register for your classes. So they're not like, oh, what did my advisor say that I should take in that class? So most advisors are really, really great about sending follow-up emails and putting in advising notes, just to make sure that students, have access to that information as well, and that they feel comfortable and confident to be able to schedule their classes when it is time to do so. And then, who doesn't love math? So we have to throw in a little math in there. So NKU does require a minimum of 120 earned credit hours to graduate with a bachelor's degree. So if you want to graduate in 4 years, 120 sounds like a lot, but when you put it in this perspective, we like for students to average 30 earned credit hours per academic year, which is around 15 per semester. Obviously, that's going to look different from some students, so we like to call it the 15 to finish. But for example, some of the majors I advise, some students may take 16 credit hours from their fall semester, which NKU really has a great rate of anywhere from 12 to 16 credit hours, costs the same in tuition amount. So we like students to stay around the 12 or the 15 to 16 credit hour range. And for example, like students may take 16 credit hours the fall semester, they may take 14 in the spring, still gets them to 30 earned by the end of the academic year. So we don't like to fixate too much on the 15, but it is really important that students are trying to earn that 30 credit hours. And it's okay. I mean, I've been there as well, where students have to withdraw from a course because they are not, you know, they're just starting now to get the material and they can't catch up. They feel as if they may feel more beneficial to take the course in the summer when that's one that they can just focus on. So that's when we really can talk about, enrolling in summer courses or coming up with an alternative plan. And that's really what your advisor is there for. We like all the student questions. We like all of the, delving into your minds and everything to make sure that we're really hitting your career goals and your graduation path. So please, like when you're talking to your students, don't have them hesitate to reach out to us with any type of question or concern that they have, because we really do want to make sure our prime goal is to make sure that they feel as if they're supported, but also we want to make sure that they feel comfortable with their path set in front of them.
Nick, a quick follow-up question for you. So we talked about the average of wanting 30 credit hours to help a student, stay on track to graduate in 4 years. But for our first year students, or even our sophomores and juniors who brought in pre-college credit, so either school-based scholars credit, dual credit, AP credit. So if they, let's say, for example, in a scenario, brought in 12 credit hours prior to college, and then they wrapped up with 28 earned credit hours for their first year. So technically they're sitting at 40 credit hours, but could that 28 maybe put them behind in terms of scholarship requirements or anything else, if we're looking to try to have, meet that 30 credit hour threshold?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that I meant to cover, so I appreciate that. So yeah, a lot of students will come in. We're seeing a lot more students come in with AP and dual enrollment credit, which is great because a lot of those are solidifying their gen ed requirements, which may get them into their major courses faster. And what's really nice is like we just kind of changed our scholarship requirements. So most scholarships now, and there's some maybe that with differential requirements and everything, but a lot of our scholarships now really just want students to have a full time, which is 12 credit hours each semester and 24 earned credit hours per academic year. So if students are coming in with a bunch of AP and dual enrollment credit, maybe they're in a really difficult major, difficult courses for them, and they are like, I would feel more comfortable staying at 12 or 13 credit hours for this semester. That oftentimes gives them the wiggle room to do so because they would still meet those credit hour requirements, because it's oftentimes like, oh, that has to be 30 earned credit hours just at NKU. We see a lot of students bringing in dual enrollment AP scores that those credit hours will count towards their graduation requirement credit hours. So, if students come in with that amount of credit hours, oftentimes they will take maybe a lower semester caseload if their academic plan allows it, so that they can focus on, more difficult courses or really having time. And we know students work often as well while they're going to school. So it really gives them that flexibility to be able to take maybe less credit hours, but still earn and maintain that correct path.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Ryan.
So this is a perfect segue then from the advising side to another topic that's also related to advising. And that really is that career advising perspective, because the academic advisors such as Nick really do work not only on the academic side of the house and overall student well-being to see how well your student is doing and getting involved. We also help them make connections to not only our career services department, but just start the early conversations, especially in the first year, around career exploration and readiness. And so I want to start off this conversation with somewhat of a tough question, because I think this may be a little taboo sometimes to ask a student, but I think it's a really direct question to engage and start a good, meaningful conversation. And that is, especially for our first year family members and parents, are they happy, your student, with their major? And this is a good question to ask, because obviously 95, 99% of the students enroll in college because they know the return on investment that a college degree will have in terms of getting them and placing them in a nice job, which will then set them up for a long-term career. And so what we really want to make sure is that their personal interests are aligned with a major, or even just a major interest in itself. And so I think engaging in that conversation is important now, because we really do, even if you know your student knows coming in, they want to be a nurse. Well, what does that mean? Do they want to be a nurse with children? Do they want to be a nurse in an emergency room? Maybe they want to be a nurse practitioner, all these different areas. And so when you have that kind of breadth, even within a major, you want to start thinking about experiences that are going to set you up and make you competitive, not only when you have your degree from NKU, but be competitive as you're heading out into the job force. And so what do then employers expect from graduates? I'm going to start off with an example. This is a real life example. So when I was getting my PhD, there was, I wouldn't say quote unquote controversy, but at the university I went to for my PhD, they had a med school. And there was kind of, it even actually hit the news around the student who had basically had a perfect score on the MCAT, which is the entrance test for medical schools, as well as a 4.0. And the university had denied admission to the student. And the reason they had said that was because the student had no other extracurricular activities, no work experiences, nothing besides simply the grades on the piece of paper. And they said anybody can sit in a library for 12 hours and study and get good grades. But a doctor needs to be able to balance 100 different things during a day, as well as kind of triaging a whole bunch of different things. And so they were really looking for the student that had the experience, that had that community engagement, had volunteerism, because that's essentially at its apex what a doctor is really doing everything they can for the community and for the betterment of health. And so they really wanted to see those experiences. Now, while that's an extreme example, it really does highlight what employers are looking for. Yes, a student could have the major that employer is looking for, have that great grade and great transcript, but they're also looking at how motivated is a student. And by motivation, they're looking at what's on their resume in terms of job opportunities. Did they get involved in clubs and organizations? Did they volunteer? Because the more robust a resume is, if you've got a student over here who had a 4.0 and nothing on a resume, and a student with a 3.5 over here, but did a lot of things and was able to demonstrate some competencies and skill sets around that job, that employer is going to be really interested in that 3.5 student with all that experience. And so we want to make sure, even during the first year, as you're heading into the second year, to set your student up for success. So what we would start to do is to really encourage your students, they're heading into the summer and heading into their fall, to encourage them to pursue an internship or a co-op. And the reason we do this is lived experiences for them. They get experiences within their majors or within their interests. It could be maybe they are in the business because they're in the entrepreneurship program because they want to start their own business, but they go over here and pursue an internship, let's say in marketing, so that they can kind of see how to apply their entrepreneurship with marketing. And what we've actually found is not only does that give them great experiences, those internships and co-ops tend to lead to either jobs during college or opportunities after college. And so again, it's that lived real world experience for them. And many of those internships and co-ops, even if they're unpaid, actually can provide some college credit as well. And for those that maybe want to continue into graduate school, strongly encourage undergraduate research. Just personal experience, I was in a research lab doing undergraduate research for 2 years in my undergrad, and it opened so many different doors as I was heading into kind of the statistical field myself. So it's just a great opportunity, again, to have experiences with faculty, but again, that's going to shine on a resume as well. Career readiness needs to begin as soon as possible. We've actually started to embed a lot of things at NKU around career into the first year, and we're even starting to have conversations even earlier during our summer programs as students are transitioning into their first year. Because again, this career readiness is going to be as important for them, and we just don't want them to get all the way to their senior year. They haven't done any experiences, they haven't even created a resume, and then they're out competing for some of these jobs against students that have done a lot over their 4 years. And so with that polished resume is critical. A lot of students think they don't need that resume until they're actually on the job search, right? Usually in their end of junior, senior year. What we are encouraging students right now, and we're actually starting to embed it in some of our courses, our first year and sophomore year courses, is to really design that resume. And the reason for that is they need to be able to not only understand how a resume is built, but also to keep it up to date. But you'd be surprised at a college campus if a student is just out and about, let's say doing some volunteerism or in an internship or a co-op, or even just doing student employment or visiting something that's related to something they're interested in. If that employer or somebody that's in a leadership position says, oh, I'm really interested, I think we should talk more, send me your resume. it's a heck of a lot easier to send a resume right away that's polished and ready to go, rather than trying to create a resume off an internet template and then going to career services to have it looked at. And did I capture everything? Because building a resume is not a half-hour process. It takes quite some time. And obviously you want that resume to shine. So we really do strongly encourage students as early as their first year to start building their resume, going to career services, having it looked at by a career advisor, and even starting to engage in interview practice skills as well, because those types of things come up all the time while just walking across campus. All right, and I know this last point, a lot of parents will roll their eyes and students don't want to talk about it because I'm sure they've heard it a lot during high school, but we cannot emphasize enough the social media aspect and making sure that what they are sharing out on social media would not hurt them from a hiring process. We are hearing more and more from employers that as they look at the final 3 or look at the final 5 candidates, they're going out to social media pages and seeing what's out there. You would think that that they wouldn't do that, but they're really looking for students to make sure from a professional setting, if they're going to be meeting with clients and everything else, that they are not putting anything out there on social media that would harm the company. And so again, we really encourage now, as soon as possible, we want to encourage students not to post certain pictures or not to post certain posts or provide critiques on anything that could sincerely hurt them when they're in that job search process. So it's okay to start engaging them with it now, because as an 18 or a 19-year-old, they're not really thinking about it. It's not until they get to 22 and they sit down with the interview, and this is the truth, and they're sitting down and the hiring director just slides a piece of paper across their desk and says, hey, we captured this on screen off your social media. Is this truly you, or is this just something that is something that you did for fun? That happens frequently. And so we want to try to encourage our students. We don't want you to be in that position when you're trying to defend a social media post that you put out there when you were 17 or 18. All righty, moving on. We want to then talk about, we talked about the advising side and preparing for summer and fall. We talked about career readiness as soon as possible. Now we want to talk about why summer courses may be a good idea for your student. Even if your student is a 4.0 student, brought in 30 credit hours into NKU, did 30 credit hours during their first year, they're ahead. There are some reasons why they may want to think about some summer courses. The first is to just get ahead and finish your degree sooner. So I'll speak to this personally. I did my degree in 4 years. I did summer courses all 3 years in between those 4 years. And the reason for that is I wanted to get ahead, but more importantly, when I got to my junior and senior year and I was doing undergraduate research, and then I also landed a job within the field that I was interested in as a junior and senior to prepare me for grad school. I wanted to do that so that I wasn't taking 15 or 17 credit hours. I was able to balance all these things. So I was able to take 12 credit hours each semester during my senior year so that I could work in the undergraduate research lab and I could work 15 to 20 hours each week. Without trying to stress myself out too much. And so I was able to make that balance by getting ahead. You can focus on tough classes that you have put off. I know a lot of students really struggle with statistics or math 201, stats 205, I'm sorry, stats 205. And so when you're taking that course in addition to maybe 4 or 5 other courses, that can put a lot of stress on that one course that maybe stats or math is not your thing. So if you just focus on just that one course in a 5 or 7 week period, it really does then focus you in just on that content area. And so a lot of students who do that are able to really focus in and just engage in that one course and tend to do much better if compared to if they were trying to balance it with a whole bunch of other courses. You can complete your general education requirements. We offer a lot of gen eds during the summer, and courses are available both in person if they want to do that. And we also do a lot of online courses during the summer, knowing that a lot of students will move back home. But it still allows them the opportunity to engage in those online classes again, kind of be nimble and flexible with their schedule. They can start taking upper level classes for your major. If you want to kind of get a head start, if they're really interested in a couple 500 level courses in their senior year, but to get to that point, they've got to take a few 200 and 300 level courses earlier. Now's the time to maybe get ahead and do that. And of course, the convenience of it all. If they're doing summer jobs or balancing a number of other things during the summer vacations, it's convenient to work around that as well. And then again, I'll end it with finishing it up. And I know Nick talked a little bit about this, trying to just essentially get ahead. So maybe if there are some courses they're really interested in, you can take your prereqs now so that you're taking them in the fall rather than if a course, for example, is only offered in the fall, and you miss it because you haven't taken the prereq, and you have to take the prereq in the fall, you have to wait for that next fall to take that course. So always getting ahead is a good thing. So again, students think I need that break, and we understand those 10 or so weeks during the summer, they need it, right? And it's nice to have. But I'm also then going to speak to why this engagement during the summer is going to be really, really important. Because for many students, summer can be a vacuum. It really can be. They just went through 16 intense weeks during the fall. They had a couple weeks off, obviously, for winter break, and then they went straight into another 16 weeks. And so for many students then, having 10 weeks or so off during the summer, it can feel like a desert island. They're just kind of out there by themselves. They can start to disconnect. They start to question, hey, do I really need to go back? Is this the major I'm really interested in? And so now is the time to really start engaging them, and also engaging them during the summer. Just, hey, are you sure you've got everything ready for the fall? I'll skip down to my last bullet point before I get to the second one. Engage them on campus. There are a number of summer jobs and summer employment opportunities that we have during the summer. We also hold a number of summer camps, as well as other summer activities that we offer even if it's just like a 4-week camp. A student can come on campus and help support that camp and get paid while doing it. And then obviously there's co-ops and internships that go out through the summer. So any way in which we can help keep them engaged, we find that students who do that tend to keep and stay engaged throughout their upper class years. So I can think of a student, for example, who helped us with a summer program that opened the door for her for an RA. She's been an RA for the last 2 years, which has provided her the opportunity for a lot of leadership positions on campus. And then also at the exact same time, that middle point for students who do not meet their expectations coming into college. A lot of students, hey, I'm going to do really, really well. I'm going to knock this out of the park. I'm going to have a 4.0. I'm going to have my 30 credit hours, and I'm going to be ready to go. And then all of a sudden, organic chemistry hits, and they really struggle, or maybe they didn't do as well on a course or a couple courses that they anticipated, and that 4.0 is now a 2.5. They start to self-doubt themselves. And so what we like to say with students all the time is, we want you to fail or struggle with us as faculty and staff during your college, so that you're not struggling when you get out into the workforce. So make your mistakes now, so that when you get to your senior year and you're starting to apply for jobs and you get out into that workforce, we want you to be ready and know how to navigate those obstacles. And as we talked about in the fall, that motivation to get over those obstacles. Because once a student learns how to navigate and get over that initial hump, those additional humps that come, as we know in life, just in general, they're able to navigate and start to figure it out on their own, which is obviously the whole development side of the college. So that we can't stress that enough. And so please, I know those can seem like odd or awkward conversations or tough conversations, but they are important conversations to have. So it's important you continue to engage with them at the end of the fall or spring, as well as into the summer. And with that, perfect. We left the exact timing we wanted, with 10 minutes left. Again, we will go till 6:45. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. I'm actually going to show you this screen real quick. If you want to go ahead and grab your phones and take a quick snapshot of this. If your student's asking, hey, I don't know where my advising center is, or who should I contact for my advisor? These are each of the colleges, as well as the first year advising hub, their contact information, as well as the lead advisor in each one of those areas. So if you want to reach out to them, they are always welcome and open to making sure that your student will connect with someone in their area. And so feel free to reach out to them or pass this information along to your student, just to say, hey, have you done this? I just want to make sure. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here in a sec. Nick, do you want to, I see a couple questions have come through. Is there anything you would like to address before I stop sharing? Because I want to make sure people have a time to take a photo here or write down their contact information.
Yeah, I was just actually responding to the question about where students go for internships and co-ops. So that's a really good question, and it honestly depends sometimes on their major. So if they're like, say, within healthcare, and they're doing their practicum experiences, their clinical rotations, they will actually get set up by the department, like the advising department, and we actually have different preceptors who schedule those students with different partnerships around the area and everything, so they're not traveling too far. But if they're in business or a major that doesn't require an internship or a co-op, because a lot of majors don't require one and they're just really interested in doing it, Our career services office is a fantastic resource for that because we have a list, and it's a very, very long and ever growing list of all the different companies and resources that we have that we can connect students with. And then we also have a, you know, career fair as well that students can attend through career services. They put on that event every year. And we have a lot of partnerships with just different career fields and everything come in. And it's completely free for students, and they just really need to sign up, attend. Usually the dress code is business casual. Um, and then students really can actually have the opportunity to talk through those partnerships. And for example, like Great American is one of our partners and has been one of our partners for a very long time. So if they're interested in that kind of realm, like insurance business realm, they could attend those sessions and everything, really talk to representatives and, set it up themselves. But our career services office is probably the perfect resource for internships and co-ops.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off. And I know Nick and Britta will respond with the information where they can contact career services, either through what their email is or what their office number is and where they can find them on campus. But that's the biggest thing is, obviously, even regardless of their major or their college, if you just get them to their academic advisor or career services, we'll make sure we can connect them. I will say we are in no shortage of employers that are trying to recruit and hire your students. We have a very high demand from our employers who are looking to hire our students. It's a fantastic problem to have. We obviously, with an economy now that is ripe for looking for college graduates, your students are going to have multiple avenues to explore. And so the quicker we can plug them in, the better it's going to be for them in the long run. Because again, our career fair, we maxed out again this year in the career fair. And so there are so many employers desperate to hire your students. And so we want to make sure that they're ready to go. So go ahead, connect them to their advisor or to career services. Looks like we got a question, where can they go for scholarships? The first thing I would say to suggest is if they're going to be meeting with their academic advisor soon, bring it up there and the advisor will be able to help kind of steer them. But overall, I think the biggest place that you can send them, or kind of a targeted place, is to our Student Financial Assistance Office, or our One Stop, which is in the Administrative Center and Lucas Administrative Center on campus. Or if Britta, if you wouldn't mind sharing their email address, I believe it's ofa@nku.edu, but we'll double check. Even if they can't visit on campus, they can do a virtual appointment with a financial counselor as well. And they can go either over their current scholarships and aid packages or what's available. And so, yes, there are a number of opportunities to explore some of those as well. Yes. So a question about this recording itself. We are recording it. And then what Britta will be doing is collecting all the questions that were asked and then providing responses as well. And then we send this recording out to the entire family and parent listserv. And so you will be getting this within a week's time. It just takes a little bit of time for us to kind of edit and pull all those responses. But then, yes, within a week, we will send this out. So if anybody wants to review this or if you haven't had the opportunity to see it and just view it for the first time, yes, that it'll be available to you. We absolutely do record these and post them. So with that, we got about 5 more minutes and we are happy to stay around. We see that there's no open questions right now. So we know, as we say in the classroom, it takes approximately 45 seconds to develop a question based off what you just heard, which can make the classroom sometimes quiet as we ask a question and wait for responses back, or a time for them to ask their questions. So we know it may take a minute or so as you're trying to formulate your thoughts into a question. So we will definitely stick around for the next few minutes here. We will not close before 6:45. But for those that have had all their questions answered, we just want to say thank you. We want to say thank you for your continued partnership with this. We've loved doing these workshops. This is something we're going to continue to do over the next, as far as we can see into the future, because like we said, the engagement with you as parents and family members is so important. We really do see this as a partnership. We've actually expanded this out now to incoming students as well and their parents and family members. And so, yes, as falls and springs continue and as your student is engaged and enrolled, we would encourage you, as you see these webinars come from Britta, we offer about 2 to 3 each semester. Feel free to jump on. The topics will vary each semester so that you can stay engaged on what is going on, and we'll continue to post important dates for you so that you can engage in those conversations with your students. So I don't want to say goodbye just yet. So we still have 4 more minutes, but for those that would like to log off and maybe head to dinner, or if you are in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky tri-state area, it is 74 degrees and sunny outside. I would have my shutters open behind me to show you the beautiful blue skies, but the glare is just too much. So I know many people may want to go out for St. Patrick's Day and sit outside with family members. We completely understand, which is why we cannot thank you enough for sitting inside with us and spending 45 minutes to learn how to support your student from your side as well. So Nick, do you have any final thoughts or anything you would like to add before we kind of conclude here in 3 more minutes?
I don't really have anything else to add other than if you are relaying this information to your student, please, please, please tell them how much of a resource advisors are on their campus. We, went into this job to really help students, because even from my personal experience, the first year, second, third, wherever your student is, it can be challenging. Life doesn't stop when you're in the academic realm and when you're in college and everything. And college is much more important than just the academics that you're learning as well. It's about self-growth, self-actualization, and advisors really are the key resource on campus that we can help connect you with resources that can help your students really reach that self-realization, and they can grow internally, personally, professionally. And we really just want to see them succeed and help. So anything that we can do, we are happy to be a resource for them. So if they, are nervous about reaching out to their advisor, if they're scared to do so, because I know I was my first year, I was like, oh, I don't want to be annoying about reaching out to my advisor. We are never annoyed. We always want to hear questions. We always want to help the student. So please, please, please do not ever tell them to not hesitate to reach out to us, because we really do love to help, and we want to make sure that they feel a sense of belonging on our campus. And that is the most crucial part.
Well said, Nick. I would say, just to echo that, everybody that is in higher education is in it because we love what we do and we love supporting students. I truly believe education is a calling. And so any way in which we can continue to support your students, that is exactly what we're here for. So it's the same thing we tell our students when they're transitioning in. Trust me, your faculty members love talking about their content areas. So that's what they spent their entire lives doing, is studying that one area. So going to their office hours to talk about it, the faculty love it. And it's the exact same thing with our staff. So the resources are there. We invest in those resources for your students, and we want them to use them because it significantly sets them up for success. We know that. And Sherry, thank you so much for your comment. That is very kind of you. Again, we love hearing the impact that these webinars have, and it's why we continue to do it and offer them. So thank you so much, Sherry. So on my clock, I got 6:44. So we'll take another minute here before we close down our session. So any final questions, thoughts, famous family recipes? We are all ears.
Especially the recipes part. Definitely all ears for that.
The awkward silence, but that's okay.
I think you got a chat, Ryan.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Did you post your email?
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I can post mine as well in case you all
Please.
have any questions about, like, if students can't locate their advisor, don't know who they are, I'd be happy to help as well. So I can also post mine.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions, or you just, the biggest thing is if you need a resource on campus, or you just don't know who to go to, because higher ed and colleges in general are giant, if you think of it, giant corporations, and then it's not the right word for it, but they are complex organizations. And so it can be sometimes daunting to try to figure out where to send a student. Just shoot us an email. We'll make sure that we get them connected where they need to go, for sure. We will make sure we get those answers for you. Thank you, Nick, for posting yours. All right.
Yeah, of course.
I see 6:45. I want to make sure we respect everybody's time here as well. And I will say, go enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We always love getting the opportunity to engage with you. And we hope that the rest of your semester for your student, they end strongly. And again, if they need any assistance, any help, or any support, we are just an email or phone call away. All righty. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.